Hello, everyone. Ray Phillips here, Broker Source in Pittsburgh, here to hopefully help you figure out whether to engage in disability income insurance or maybe engage more. Um, I really appreciate the opportunity to lend a hand. It's been a while since I've done any heavy lifting for NALBA, and it was nice for Dan to remember that I exist and actually have me try to quarterback this session, and hopefully will enlighten you with a little bit of insight into this exciting and underserved marketplace. As I was getting ready for this, I started thinking about my experience with disability income insurance, and really I've done disability insurance from day one in the business. We've always done disability insurance. We are a one-stop shop, a more multi-line type agency. And there was a time that I thought that all brokerage general agencies looked like me. And as I got more and more involved in the industry, indeed, because of NALBA annual meetings, I started to realize that, hey, we're a little bit unique in that a lot of the folks, at least in the NALBA universe, concentrated pretty much on impaired risk underwriting and inexpensive term insurance, and really didn't do the other things that we do: long-term care insurance and fixed annuities and disability income insurance. And then I continued down my merry professional path and started to realize that, hey, there are agencies that are almost the polar opposite of the NALBA type agencies that concentrate, if not exclusively on disability income insurance, then devote more of their energies just to disability income insurance. Sort of like the NALBA, a lot of the NALBA agencies concentrated on life. There are agencies out there that had more of a focused approach to DI, kind of a boutique type approach. So I thought that what might be good for this panel discussion is to balance it out with representatives from both sides of that equation. So first of all, I invited my friend Jeff Moore from Diversified Brokerage Specialist out in Cincinnati, Ohio, whose model is very similar to mine. He does pretty much everything: life, DI, long-term care, fixed annuities. Although his agency is one of the oldest DI agencies in the country, started by his grandfather just after World War II. So Jeff's roots run deep into the disability insurance space. So Jeff and I sort of represent that one-stop shop, multi-line agency approach. And then I sought out my friend Tom Pecci, the esteemed Tom Pecci from Brokerage Solutions out in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I've been very fortunate to get to know Tom over the years through some carrier meetings, some other industry meetings, but really during the old Joint Executive Committee meetings when I was going through the chairs of NALBA, Tom was heavily involved in the leadership of the Society of Financial Service Professionals. He served as president there. And at the JEC meeting, all of the various industry associations came together to share ideas between the staff and the volunteer leaders, and got to know Tom more there. He was, again, past president of the National Society of Financial Service Professionals and was held in such high regard. He was given the Kenneth Black Lifetime Achievement Award a few years ago from that organization, which is roughly equivalent to our Moores Award. And he didn't stop there. He's very active in the International DI Society, serves on the board there, is past president there, and indeed in 2019 was given the W. Harold Peterson Lifetime Achievement Award there. So here's a guy that's basically won 2 Moores Awards with other industry associations. He's truly one of the more passionate and respected voices in the disability income space. So I appreciate Tom being with us here today. And then lastly, I figured we'd better bring the average age of this panel down a little bit. So I reached out to my young friend, Max Schmitz, who's one of the bright and shining stars on the horizon of the disability insurance marketplace. He's with his dad, Jack, out there at Disability and Long-Term Care Agency in the Bay Area in California. He's very involved with the International DI Society, heavily involved with the Plus Group, which I'm a member, and Jeff Moore here is the president of. And truly a great LinkedIn connection. I've learned a lot from Max because of his well thought out LinkedIn posts on this subject. So we've got a very, very good panel. Thank you guys. Thanks very much for participating and hopefully helping some of the participants and some of the constituents here engage a little bit more in disability income insurance. One of the taglines we use to market and promote disability income insurance at the brokerage source simply is, we do DI. So a very open-ended question here, might take the whole time period, but how do you guys do DI? How do you get an advisor to engage? How do you get them to notice you rather than someone else in the DI space? How do you do DI? Jeff, for no real good reason, why don't you start us off?
Okay. Well, we, as you mentioned today, Ray, we are a full-service brokerage, but we were a boutique disability insurance brokerage general agency, when we were founded in 1946, for 40 years, all the way up into the mid-'80s. And we marketed DI a lot like the life brokerages started. The old career shops, many of them didn't even offer DI. Very few companies did. So we were there for career agents that had a company that did not offer DI, or just like on the life side, if they had some tough cases, that type of thing, we could be more competitive or help them. So as you remember, Ray, back in the day, the 80s or so, when we came into business, DI was a hot item. There were a lot more people selling DI, a lot more DI companies. So, and a lot of your career agents spoke that language more often. And as time developed, the market changed, and we did get into life insurance, and we got into life insurance by just asking our DI producers if they wanted a life quote. And I think today the opposite could be done, and that's what we encourage people to do, is just ask their life clients, if they'd like a disability quote.
Well, and that's one of the things that, I've been asked to speak, as I'm sure all you have, at many different industry events, locally and nationally and regionally. And facetiously, that's one of the ways I start off with is, how do you get into the disability insurance marketplace? You ask your clients if they have done any income planning. And sadly, very often they haven't. Tom, Max, how about you guys? How do you ingratiate yourself to the advisors? How do you get them to jump into your ship?
Well, Ray, it's interesting because I came into this business a lot different. I was a career agent with Paul Revere Life. And the first sale that I made, Paul Revere had a requirement. You had to sell yourself individual disability before you could go out in the field and talk to anybody else. All right. So I was my first client. And then I went through the general manager position and the career agency. And of course, then in the mid 90s, when the Provident Paul Revere thing came about, then that's when we entered the brokerage or the wholesale side, and where we're at today. Now, we look at it differently in that we don't talk about DI, we talk about income replacement. On my business card, it says income replacement specialist. I think that what we do every day is protect people's most valuable asset, their income. And so what we talk to people, we're talking to financial advisors, we're talking about P&C agents, we're talking to a few left of the life agents. And again, we start talking to them about income and all the programs. And I like the current popular mode is financial planning, financial advising. And I always like to say to them, what's the most valuable asset that your client has today and will ever have? And of course, they look at me like, I'm talking Greek, and I say it's their income. I said, all the great plans that you people put in place, and don't get me wrong, I mean, these financial advisors and planners today are way above my head. I mean, they're very intelligent people, and they're setting up all these complex plans and all this stuff that just, again, I don't understand. But the one thing I understand is that they all take money. And if a client doesn't have money to pay for that plan, what are you going to do? So that's really the way we approach it is we're income replacement specialists. And I think that that's the biggest thing that we really try to promote.
Well, and it's funny, it's kind of ironic that so much of the community, financial services community, is focused on retirement income planning, and yet they leave like the current catastrophic income planning off the board. So they're selling, you know, variable annuities with income riders and putting together LERP strategies on the life insurance side. And yet, to your point, Tom, what happens if there's no current income? So it's kind of, I've always found that fascinating, that guy is so income driven, except for current income. Max, how about you? What are you doing to engage brokers? What are you doing beyond what, say, probably Jeff and Tom and I have grown up doing, which is beating on doors and trying to get an advisor in a headlock to get them to recognize that disability income even exists?
Yeah, it doesn't quite work when you're trying that right out of the gate after college. I'll tell you that much. You don't get a lot of street cred for having a political science degree. But that said, I am the noob. I got to start off first of all by saying, even though it's my 12th year in the business, I do appreciate you inviting me on the panel, and I'm keenly aware of how small I look on the stage alongside these two giants. So just wanted to say thanks for that. But my process is pretty similar to Tom. We actually talked about rebranding to income replacement specialists, but we figured nobody would probably pick up a call from the IRS, so we decided that kind of title. But the idea behind it is that I like to get messy. I mean, the more FaceTime I can get with the client, the more likely they are to buy, quite frankly. I mean, we really came to that realization a few years back and have had really good success the past 2 years, especially working with CFPs and fee-only advisors. I mean, if you think about it, I was just kind of looking at the numbers one day, with sabermetrics, if you will, and was running, 100 quotes for 50 brokers who sell 8. And now, having this more limited focus, I'm running maybe 10 quotes from 3 advisors, but I'm selling 7. So, it's sort of a pick your strategy sort of thing. But I mean, it's really worked out for us because the psychology is just super interesting to me. I mean, working with an advisor as opposed to a broker, when the referral source like sort of transcends that role of salesperson and passes it off to us, then they often become an impartial, like moral authority almost in the eyes of the client. And of course, they make me look good too, even though I'm easily the worst salesperson on the planet. The psychology has helped us kind of disarm the client's defensive position in the conversation. So I'm basically just there to educate on the philosophy of DI, whether you want to cover your base expenses and the high limit level, or like that high level exposure, or use it more as like a tool to truly replace income and maintain a lifestyle. And then basically explain all the riders, because as we all know, clients are not a monolith. So it's always good to just kind of check my preconceived recommendations at the door, and just really kind of take my time to explore, really the pros and cons of each line item, and just get the client's perspective that way on each point.
Well, it's funny for me, being an old wholesaler on the life side as well, and even on the DI side, there was a time where we educated the agent, the advisor, and then the advisor would, that was his expectation. He would take it to the street. For many of us in the NALBA universe, across all product lines, it seems that we here are becoming less of the insurance wholesaler and more the insurance partner, either the hired gun with the broker at our side, the advisor at our side, interfacing with his client, or just please help my client out and tell me what you need me to do. Here's his phone number or email address. Jeff, it's interesting, isn't it, with our experience in the life brokerage business and the life wholesaling business, marketing disability income to advisors is a little bit different than a 20-year term product, is it not?
Sure, absolutely. Ray, I would say, as you well know, disability is a lot different than life insurance. There's a lot more to it. It's much more technical. You have many more provisions, features, riders to discuss, not to mention the underwriting. It takes a vast knowledge of underwriting, the different tools available, again, to succeed in the DI market. I know there's a lot of agencies, and we do too, a lot of joint sales work today, Zoom meetings, joint work. But I would have to say, I can't say that we're really doing a whole lot of client-facing meetings. We certainly do our share. I've got, more than myself, of course, a salesman, and we all participate in that. But I really believe that for the most part, we're still training the advisor. We're working with the advisor. We're going through the quote. We're talking about, 5 reasons or so why one product might be better than the other, giving them the bullet points. And then they're the ones, going forward, making a presentation and making the sale. We just have to remind agents of that. We talked about financial planners earlier and people accumulating assets. They can get themselves into a lot of trouble by not bringing up disability insurance and income protection. As a matter of fact, I've seen 2 of them get fired for not bringing up income protection, and now our broker manages all the money.
Wow.
So that happened in 2 separate circumstances, and I don't hear, of nearly every story like that. But it's of real value. And the thing about disability is you're helping the client themselves. It's a more personal relationship than life insurance. People are never buying life insurance for themselves. Disability, they're going to be the one collecting on it. And so it is a much deeper, better relationship, and it's something that everyone should be talking to their clients about.
Tom, how about you? How much of your day is spent educating, training, and wholesaling DI compared to partnering or selling DI on your own?
Well, until February, March of this year, it was probably 60-40, 60% out meeting with brokers, doing joint calls, doing some broker sales. I much prefer that because, what we find is so many of the brokers, advisors, planners, whatever, they really have no interest. They just want to kind of push it off onto somebody else, and they know it's important, but they don't want to deal with it. So a lot of what we do is we say, okay, you bring it to us, and if you don't want to deal with it, we'll take care of it for you, and we'll pay you either split commission or a finder's fee. We have others that do want to be very involved because it's their client. So we'll go out and make a lot of joint calls. So that was the process before the pandemic. But now, obviously, we're doing some Zoom calls, but majority of it is education and calling on brokers on the phone, trying to educate them. But, it is, again, that's one of the challenges I think that is most difficult for us wholesalers today with disability is that people today have such little background in disability income. And it's like you're starting all over to teach them how to ride a bike, letting alone a motorcycle. So it is a challenge, I think. And what Jeff said is true. What we really say is that disability is a greed sale. It's the only insurance product that you'll ever buy where you get the check in your name and you get to spend it any way you want to. Any other insurance that you have, it's going to go to somebody else. You basically just sign it off. A lot of times you don't even sign it off, and it goes to them. And even your life insurance, for the most part, unless you take out a loan, you're never going to see that. That's going to go to somebody else. So in disability income, and by the way, what's the odds, what's the chances of you collecting on your disability policy to most of your other insurances? Now, we know we're all going to die at some time, but if you look at your homeowners, your auto insurance, all these other things, much, much greater chance that you're going to use your disability insurance than you will those other ones. And so again, we talk about the greed need sale versus a regular sale in the insurance marketplace.
I want to shift gears a little bit. A lot of folks that are watching this are probably wondering, hey, should I engage more? Is this a market with a future? Is this where's this going to be in 5 years? So Max, you probably have the most tread left on your tires. where do you see, what are you seeing happening in the disability insurance space? Where do you see the insurance or the disability insurance business 5 years, 10 years from now? Talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that some of the carriers have been involved with, some of the things that you've been involved with as technology becomes more and more part of our existence.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's okay, I'd like to focus a little on even like the shorter term, like 6 months out, because it's just been really interesting right now in the wake of COVID, obviously. I mean, from a market standpoint, we've seen a really wide stratification. I mean, our white collar professional service employees and medical professionals are really not experiencing a significant loss of income yet. I mean, some community hospitals are definitely going to be doomed with their budget shortfalls for 2021, but the rest of the economy has obviously seen a bigger tightening of the belt, and that manifests in the form of reduced income, which can ultimately affect disability insurance payouts. And you think about how few benefits brokers or financial advisors even acknowledge that group LTD plans, association plans, even some rotting old IDI policies probably have a clause in the contract that actually calculates the payments based on 2 or 3 year average of income. So even though that awesome LTD plan you got from Employee Benefits Unlimited says 60% income replacement, you're actually looking at a significantly reduced number of your income has actually been affected by it.
Good point.
And by the way, that benefit's taxable 9 times out of 10 too. So you could be looking at 20% income replacement easily in a lot of cases. Our IDI contracts, they're not subjected to that same scrutiny or reduction. And that total disability benefit is really, that benefit max is the benefit max, and you get what you pay for, literally. But another, a more positive outcome from the COVID economy is this apparently persistent willingness for some of these carriers to write more simplified issue coverage, up to $10,000 a month on the individual DI benefits, $25,000 a month for business overhead policies, and $1 million, up to $1 million, it looks like, for a couple of these domestic buy-sell carriers as well. So it's literally never been easier to get something through underwriting in an expedited fashion. And I just feel like not enough people are really taking advantage of that right now. My hope is that we do. We as an industry do such a bad job of writing BOE and buy-sell anyway, it probably won't change anytime soon. So it's a nice strategy for small offices that are like reliant on a rainmaker to help feed their staff and families. So those are my short term. I can talk a little bit more about some long term stuff, but I want to give the giants here some time to speak too.
Yeah, Tom and Jeff, bullish on the market, bearish on the market? What are you thinking?
I think that, again, the economy is a big driver of the DI market. And next year, 2021, once we get this virus under better control, the vaccines are rolling out and the lockdowns hopefully go away. Business bounces back. That's what everyone's expecting. I expect the disability market to be blockbuster in 2021.
I agree with that, Ray. And just a little footnote here. When I started in the business, there was 2,000 illnesses known to humans that could cause you to be disabled. And by the way, we all know today that one of the biggest misnomers in the disability field is that, you talk about disability and immediately people talk about accidents, when in reality, over 90% of all disabilities are sickness related, not accident related. But to take it further, today, there are over 5,500 illnesses that are known to humans that can cause you to be disabled. All right. And what this pandemic has done, it has just re-emphasized the significance of sickness versus accident. And going forward, that's what we're going to see. I think that there's another thing that it comes to play here. And I think, again, Jeff, you agree with me on this. We've been in this business long enough, and you also, Ray. It's really interesting because there's a phenomena that has happened that I've seen 3 or 4 times in my career. Anytime there's a downturn in the economy, disability sales go up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's psychological. When the economy is not doing so well, people say, oh my God, it's tight now. What would happen if I didn't have an income, period? So disability sales go up. So again, I think I agree with what Jeff and Max are saying. 2021 and beyond, I think disability sales is going to be great for our profession, our industry. We just have to, again, listen to Max a little bit more. I think he's very creative in his marketing and using technology to make more sales. But yeah, I think we have a great future in disability income.
Well, and there are rumblings of carriers getting into the space and sort of rolling up their sleeves and getting more focused and kicking it into higher gear in the disability space. So I too am bullish on disability income insurance sales, and I think it's a great market. We're coming into the home stretch on our allotted time, so I'll kind of close it out by saying this: it was great hanging with you guys for the last half hour. I've learned so much over the years from each one of you, and I truly, truly appreciate that. For anyone else that wants to hear more from any of these panelists, including myself, I'm sure there's contact information out there on the NALBA website. I just have to dig a little bit and find it. And I'm sure if you Google any of our names, you'll find us as well. So with that being said, I really appreciate all your time. I appreciate your passion for this most important marketplace. And hopefully for those of you that are watching, maybe we've given you some insights and ideas that might help you kick up your energy level towards disability insurance sales a little bit more and engage a little bit more. And with that said, I'll ask you to stay engaged and on now to the next session. Thanks very much, everyone.